The Detroit Tigers take two from the Kansas City Royals this weekend. First two games of the series were kind of a change of pace. The offense showed up. It looked really good. They were doing things they haven't done in a while. And then Sunday rolled around and that all went out the window. And we kind of went back to the same old Detroit Tigers, specifically their offense. So we're going to talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, September 12th, 2022. Thank you for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Okay, the Detroit Tigers take 2 of 3 in Kansas City this weekend. Really, like I said in the cold open, man, like really solid first couple of games. Really good production out of the offense. Phenomenal offensive performances in the first two games. And it wasn't like they were doing, like, you watch this offense and you were like, oh my goodness, this is some powerhouse. And look at the pitches that they're able to drive and look at, the offensive approaches at the plate or anything. Like, no, it was all the same. The only difference was, like, they were able to hit fastballs down the middle. Like, that's me exaggerating a little bit, but like not a ton. Like, in actuality, the biggest thing I noticed from the first two games was that fastballs that caught a lot of the plate were actually hit hard and driven. They timed them up really well. They timed them up not just really well in the sense of, like driving the ball middle of the field, like timing the ball well, timing the bat path well, so that the launch angle was good. And they were actually driving fastballs. It's a fascinating concept, something we have not seen literally all year, but it's nice to finally see some offense and finally just see a team do what it's supposed to do with a weak pitching performance. Like, that's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to take teams who throw a ton of fastballs that are all, in the strike zone and catching a lot of the plate. You're supposed to dominate. And golly, they finally did. So it was a really nice change of pace. And so we're going to start with that. We're going to start with the offense in the first two games together. Then we'll go to the pitching performances in the first two games. And then we'll kind of just save Sunday for last there at the end. But it was a really nice change of pace. And so that was the biggest thing I noticed, was just the ability to actually drive fastballs. But just like any mistake pitches, like, again, we've bailed out more pitchers this year than like I've ever seen in my life. Like, that you could throw a fastball down the middle, you can hang a curveball belt high, you can do, like, there's just, you can make as many mistakes as you want. It just doesn't matter, because if it's harder than 94 miles an hour, the Tigers just aren't hitting it no matter what. So it was really nice to see the approach at the plate at least be executed for a change, like actually come to fruition. It was very nice to watch, and there really aren't too many negatives as a whole on either side of the ball on Friday or Saturday. I mean, we didn't shut them out both games, but either game, 10-2 and 8-4, and a game on Saturday that they probably should have called sooner. They really wanted to, like, get that game in for whatever reason, which is weird to me considering it's September and both of these teams are going to finish, in last and second to last pretty comfortably in the division. So it was weird to me that they were like trying everything they could to push this game through. And I think it probably shouldn't have even made it to seventh, eighth inning. So probably shouldn't have gone that long. But anyway, it was just really nice to see the no, not have something to complain about. Like, again, it wasn't a perfect. There are no perfect games in baseball. 27 outs have to be made, right? But it's it was just nice to at the end of the game not go, well, we could have done this better, we could have done this better, we could have done this better. It was like, no, like that's pretty much as good as it's gonna get. Those were really, really well executed games, and it was just nice to have some comfortable wins and have some offensive explosion a little bit. 18 runs in 2 games. It was nice. It was real nice. So Friday, like I said, 10-2. Saturday, 8-4. Some highlights from those games. Riley Green walking, getting some hits. Uh, look, I still believe that since he just like broke the seal and drew a walk, I think it was like 2 weeks ago now, maybe even 3 weeks ago now. He went on this huge dry spell of not drawing any walks, and then ever since he drew that walk, he's just been a changed man, and he's looked really solid at the plate. So, like him staying in the leadoff spot, we're fighting to get to 700. If I would be, I know it's really arbitrary, but I'd really like him to finish with an OPS over 700 this year. Victor Reyes solid, Javi Baez solid in the first 2 games, Harold Castro solid, like everybody ate. You know what I mean? Like Eric Haas went over on Saturday, but on Friday continued. I mean, he went, what was it, 8 straight plate appearances with a hit between Thursdays, or we didn't play Thursday, between Wednesday's game and Friday's game. Just is absolutely the starting catcher on the team at this point in the season. Barnhart just, unfortunately, it has been such a liability at the plate that, with how hot of a stick Haas is swinging on top of that, it's pretty much impossible to justify, defense aside. Like, it's impossible to justify not giving Eric Haas a majority of the playing time behind the plate. That's just what I'm trying to say. And even with, Barnhart is better than Haas defensively, but it's not good enough. It hasn't been good enough this season to overcome what their separation is offensively. I hope that made sense, especially with how bad this team has been offensively this season, as we know. And so the cool thing also with this is that they are playing the kids, which I love. Well, we've talked about it a million times. I want the kids to play as often as possible. So it's really cool. See, Torque in there again every day. He has been swinging such a hot stick. Shout out Spencer Torkelson. Like ever since getting called back up, he has looked a lot better. And there is, like, you watch his swing now and his swing before getting sent down. It is different. It is noticeably different. And the bat path, I think, is slightly changed. Like there's this little like notch thing, I guess I would call it. He kind of does, and it's been working for him, and I hope it's sustainable. And it's just, he's hitting the ball hard in the air to the pull side. Not everything in the air is late, and not everything that he's, you know, early on is on the ground. Like he's hitting the ball in the air. He's driving the ball to center field. Like hit that absolute bomb last week. Like there to dead center field against the Angels. Like there is, you're starting to see it. He had a triple in this one. He had a double this weekend. Rather, he had a triple this weekend. He had a double this weekend. Hits in every game. I think like he's looked so much better. His OPS is up to 620 on the season, and I know just like when talking about season numbers and like, oh, they go on a hot streak, they're up to the low 600s, I guess, but just we know that that's improvement, and that's why you play the kids in September, because you want them to get at bats and see if they can iron some stuff out. Candelario, one of the only, especially on after Friday, like definitely. Look, I think Jamer Candelario's future is really in jeopardy with this team. I think that, and I know he got hot there at the end of last week for a little bit. He had the big home run on Friday, but I mean Saturday right back to an offer, and the defense has really just not been there on the season. I get more and more convinced every day that Jamer Candelario is not going to be on this ball club next year and no longer going to be part of this organization. So we'll see what happens. That'll be a discussion for the offseason, but definitely something to keep an eye on for. Akil Badu with 2 walks. We need to see some hits. Badu's another one. A guy that after last season, I think most people penciled in as a really big contributor for this team and a potential starting left fielder for this team going forward, like adding a higher end prospect, basically, I think is what most of us viewed it as and this year has just been absolutely lost at the plate. Ryan Kreider this weekend, solid. Kerry Carpenter this weekend had a really nice weekend. It's always there are a few things in this planet that are more visually appealing than a fastball low and into a lefty that just gets crushed. And that is what happened with him on Saturday. Just absolutely crushed a baseball to right field, a nice home run. He's obviously a lefty. It was just a heater low and in that he just turned on. And it was so nice to see. It's just, again, so nice to watch these dudes actually just take advantage of hittable pitches. Like as sad as that sounds. And so for a couple of days, we got that, and it was really nice. Okay, let's go on to the pitching in the first two games of the series, and then we'll get to Sunday's letdown after getting excited after Friday and Saturday. But first, I got to tell you all about our friends over at LinkedIn Talent Solutions. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questioning make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small business rates LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Well, now you do. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnMLB. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnMLB to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, everybody. We are back here for segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Okay, let's get to the pitching performances in these games. Two pretty not interesting. Definitely two pitchers that looking ahead to the remainder of the season, the last 3 weeks here as we get to the home stretch, pun intended. Um, Definitely two of the more intriguing pitchers that people are going to continuously have their eye on as far as that audition for next season and really help determine what's going to happen this offseason and what we roll with pitching wise heading into camp next year. So for starters, let's start with Joey Wentz. Really cool story just because this is his hometown, right? So and I know they talked about it on the broadcast a million times, so we don't really need to rehash that. But first major league win, almost goes 7 innings of shutout ball against the Kansas City Royals. Grew up down the road, went to high school down the road, family and friends all in the crowd. Super cool moment. How can you not be romantic about baseball? But um, he was great, and this was a masterclass of missing barrels, and we've talked about it so much. We'll talk about it when we get to Sunday's game because one of the pitchers who for a lot of the season was really good at missing barrels was not good at that on Sunday. But Joey Wentz was fantastic, and the thing with him was he was able to get swings and misses on some secondary pitches as well. It wasn't just strictly okay. I want to pitch to soft contact and see how this goes. Like I mean, he had 5 strikeouts, only 1 walk, 2 hits, and no earned runs in 6 2/3. Just a phenomenal line. He ended with 10 whiffs, which is, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, maybe a little low, but 4 whiffs on the four-seam fastball, which he threw a ton. That's kind of expected because he threw the four-seam 63% of the time. But the really cool number is he threw the cutter 19 times. It was his second most thrown pitch, and it was only thrown 22% of the time. But he had 4 whiffs on the cutter. So as many whiffs on the cutter as he did on the four seam, even though he threw it, 46 less times? That was horrible math. 36 less times. Goodness gracious. So really, really good to see. I thought the cutter was very effective. It was a really good setup pitch. It was a really good non-hard. There wasn't a single barreled cutter the entire game. He kept it really soft. It was just, I think there was only one or two barreled four seam fastballs, and that was like it for the game. Like, he really did it. The average exit velocity for this outing was 79.6 miles an hour. That is sensational. That is a very good number. He got one ball that was crushed at 109. And besides that, it was almost all no barrels, right? Like almost all sub 95 and honestly, almost all sub 90. He didn't have a single secondary pitch, right? So if you just look at outside of the four seam fastball, the cutter, the curveball, and the changeup, through the cutter 19 times, the curveball 8 times, the changeup 5 times, quite literally zero balls hit over 90 miles an hour, nonetheless 95 for those three pitches combined. The placement was really effective. I think that's another reason why he was doing really well. And he used the fastball as a setup pitch. And we've seen this so many times. And this season, it's one of the things that makes Chris Fetter so great, I think. But I think the next step is continuing to use the four seam as a setup pitch. That's beautiful. That's great. We love to see that. And also, he wasn't afraid to throw the fastball high. Like several of his whiffs were on fastballs up in the zone, and they were kind of like, screw you fastballs. Like they were really nice and topped out at 95 miles an hour a couple of times when he went up in the zone. Like it was a really, really fun outing for Joey Wentz on Friday. So I loved it. And the next step for him is to then use that setup four seam fastball to then go to have a primary secondary pitch where he can go to tunnel it with said four seam and then just be a whiff machine. And like that's the next step, is being able to keep that fastball command in a good spot and keep the fastball command as a whole good enough to where he can continue using it as a setup pitch and then have either I don't care if it's the cutter, the curveball, or the changeup. I don't care. But one of those, he then tunnels and, kind of does the Joe Jimenez thing before a full outing. But and he has, 3 or 4 more pitches. That wasn't really a great comparison now that I'm thinking about it. But it kind of ish, you could pretend it is. I think that's the next step for him. So masterclass performance by Joey Wentz. Jose Cisnero also pitched on Friday. He pitched 1 out. He was fine. And then Daniel Norris kind of was just in the mop-up role. Daniel Norris is not going to be on this team next year. It was a cool story for him to come back and, like see everybody again. And like, I love Daniel Norris, who doesn't, and he's a great dude. And dealt with a lot as a professional. But, this is like, he was in there just because he could eat innings and get in a blowout, prevent having to throw a position player out there and just eat some innings there at the end and get some experience. So I don't know about, minor league deal, whatnot, but he's not going to be on the opening day roster next season. That's for sure. So yeah, just all the issues that were there with Daniel Norris from a baseball perspective before we traded him are still very much prevalent now. Like nothing's really changed. It's the same dude. So that's why I say that. Then looking at Saturday, we have a Matt Manning start. Those are always the talk of the town. Look, I thought this was a pretty solid performance, and it wasn't as good. It falls somewhere in between like his last 3 outings and then his first 3 outings after coming back from injury, right? Like his first 3 outings after coming off the IL, we were like, oh my goodness, like he's here, he's him, everything is great. He looks fantastic. And then the last 2 or 3 outings, we've been like, oh my goodness, he's really, stuff's hitting the fan. This is really not effective. And he needs to kind of get back in the lab and figure some stuff out because he has been wildly ineffective his last few outings. This one I thought was somewhere in between that. His final line was 6 1/3, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 total runs, 1 walk, and 4 Ks. This was, if you remember last season with Matt Manning, I don't know, everybody has been listening to this for a different amount of time, but if you were a listener of the show last year, or if you just watched with your own eyes last season, Matt Manning last year was very big on, I'm just going to throw a ton of fastballs and kind of hope for the best almost. Not really hope for the best, but like he didn't want to beat himself. And we've talked about this a ton with the Feder mentality and the Feder stages in development. It's almost like he took a step back, and not took a step back in his development, but just took a step back in the sense that he went, you know what? The off-speed stuff lately has not been working very well. I've been all over the place. I've had pretty much no command to speak of for the last couple of outings. I need to take a step back, go back to the fundamentals, and go back to what the maybe earlier steps of Fetter's steps in development are, and that's you are going to pound the strike zone with fastballs, and you are going to make the offense beat you. And against a really, really poor offense in the Kansas City Royals, he was able to do that and be effective. And that is what happened. Like, the average exit velocity was 91 miles an hour. He had 7 whiffs in over 6 innings. All right. Like, he was pitching in the 7th and only had 7 whiffs. His CSW percentage was 21%. That's not, fantastic. It's not terrible, but it's not, oh my goodness, that it's like below average. So, look, it's just, it's a step back, kind of a regroup, a regathering performance from him, and I think that I think it could benefit him. I like the game plan. I like going back. He threw 57% of his pitches were four seam fastballs, and yet he threw 5 registered pitches. He didn't he threw 94 pitches. The most he threw besides his four seam fastball with his changeup, and it was only 13 of 94. Like, he just didn't throw too many secondary pitches. And you know what? The average, like I said, the average exit velocity was 91. He only gave up 3 hits. They were hitting the ball onto the ground. Might as well just pound the strike zone with fastballs, gain some confidence back, realize that your fastball isn't a bad pitch, right? Like, that 93, but tops out at 96 sometimes randomly fastball that he has can be effective, and teams that aren't great offensively, if he's locating it well, he can take advantage and just have a nice cool outing where he just throws kind of the same pitch over and over. And that's kind of what he did. So, wasn't a stellar outing by any stretch, and we kind of went back to the early stages in development, but I think that might have been needed to kind of regroup and regather himself. So, hopefully his next outing, we can just get back to where we were for the first 3 outings after he came off the IL, because we were starting to see some significant signs of improvement before he started struggling a few outings ago. So, and then Andrew Chafin pitched, the only other pitcher to pitch on Saturday before the rain caught up to us there. And he gave up an unearned run. That's been the story of the season. We have a lot of unearned runs. We love making errors. So, not too terribly, I guess, surprising, I guess is the word. I don't know. Sure. I guess that's a few outings in a row where Chafin's been, giving up some base runners, but he is like 500 on my list of concerns going into next season. He is not even close to the top of my priority list of things I'm looking for in September to look for next year, and he shouldn't be high on yours either. Andrew Chafin is fine. He's good. Okay, let's get to Sunday right after this. All right, everybody. Welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Tigers drop Sunday's game by a score of 4-0 to the Kansas City Royals. This was just going right back to the well, man. This was Brady Singer has absolutely dominated you in his career. That's just objectively true. He has dominated you. And look, I like Brady Singer. He's got a nice sinker. He can pair it with the slider pretty well, right? But there's really no excuse for this. There's really no excuse to get dominated kind of this badly by Brady Singer. Like, he's had a solid year, and this offense is historically terrible, even more so on the road than they already are at home. Like, this is par for the course. This is not like I'm furious and whatever. Like, this is very expected. This is not the least surprising thing ever. But it just, you're gonna have to figure out how to hit him at some point because he's in your division, and that's just how it works. Okay, you're gonna have to figure it out. So a really, I mean, great performance by him. He his arm slot and the way he throws the sinker slider together is just uber effective. And when you have a team that can't hit straight fastballs consistently, nonetheless, sinkers that kind of, roll downhill like that and it might bite at the end that are going 94, 95 miles an hour, you're not going to have a recipe for success more times than not. So I think that's why he's so effective against us. We just kind of pound the ball into the dirt pretty much all game for 7 innings every time he takes the mound against us. Offensively, I mean, I just said offensively, even though I was explaining the offense. I mean, it was back to, back to the old me, right back where we started. It's just that's been the story of the season. We just, we have a couple of games that maybe give us hope, and then boom, the next week is just right back to what we're used to. Nobody was really effective. Another reason that I thought on Friday and Saturday that this team was really good offensively was they had a much more professional approach. They were taking pitches out of the strike zone. They were trying to draw walks and just get people on base. And while that just went out the window on Sunday, they drew one walk. Kerry Carpenter had the only walk on Sunday's game during Lions football. And yeah, that was it. The only person that I think still looked pretty solid on Sunday was Spencer Torkelson. I was still very impressed. He had a hard hit double there down the third base line on Sunday, and he continues to look pretty solid enough at first base defensively. But I'm really impressed with his approach at the plate so far since getting called back up. And I'm not going to make any brash judgments. I don't even know if by the end of the season my mindset on where I think Torkelson is at, and we'll get to all that. Like I said, we're going to do deep dives on every player when the season ends. So I'm not even sure that really changes my season out. It'll change my season outlook if he can be good the rest of September. But I don't know. I'm not gonna get moved over a hot weekend or a hot week, right? Week and a half since he's gotten called up. I'm gonna need him to be really solid for the remainder of September and keep hitting hittable pitches and stuff for me to start being like, okay, like we're actually taking strides here, and this isn't just like a flash in the pan hot streak. Like we're actually seeing him make adjustments and really come through there. So not going to make any judgments there yet. But he was really one of the only bright spots in my opinion offensively, probably the only bright spot offensively on Sunday's game. And I think that's probably it for the offense. Pitching wise, Tyler Alexander started in this one. His ERA is now 5.35. Look, I don't know why there was a like camp of people that were big on Tyler Alexander, might maybe is a starter in next year's rotation. I everybody knows and has known my opinion of Tyler Alexander for the better part of a year now. I think he's very effective and a long reliever and spot starter role where if you need to give someone a day off, if someone gets hurt, he can slide into your rotation. But you don't go into opening day with Tyler Alexander as part of your rotation. And this is kind of why. Like, I don't want to just pinpoint and hold up a poor box score and be like, this is why. Like, the dude I think can be very valuable on a major league roster, and I hope he's on the team next year. Like he has a spot, and I think that when he executes that role that I was talking about earlier, well, that he can be really effective and really valuable to this team. But it's the first few starts when he gets in the rotation, he's pitching every fifth day. You're like, hey, this isn't bad, and then by the fourth, fifth, sixth start, you're like, okay, that this is not a long-term solution anymore. And that's just the Tyler Alexander experience. And that's why I think he can be effective kind of in that role that he was supposed to have this year. But again, we've had so many injuries that he's kind of had to slide in there and be I don't want to say over his head because he loves starting and wants to be in that moment, but has definitely been a bigger role than was originally carved out for him. That's just objectively true. So I don't even have really too much to say. Like the cutter that is usually his go-to barrel missing pitch when he is on. Just was not that effective. Put in play 8 times, got cranked a couple of times. The four-seam fastball was really the worst part of it. The four-seam fastball was crushed twice, through 2, 3 times. Just not a very effective outing. The 5 whiffs, not swing and miss stuff. He's never had swing and miss stuff, even when his outings were good, and wasn't able to miss barrels enough to really settle himself in and really ever be on top of this outing from jump. So, yeah, that's really. I don't have too much in depth analysis there. It's just kind of we've been talking about him and where he currently stands with the team, and I don't think that changed. Alex Lang went sinker heavy instead of curveball heavy in this one. Again, that's like 2 or 3 outings in a row. We kind of talked about it last week. I was like, hey, he used to just be like, I'm just going to go throw this curveball because nobody can hit it. And then the sinker if I need to. And now the last few starts, he's been a lot more sinker heavy. I think that might just be because he's been struggling and is trying something new. Sinker gives you a little bit more command than the curveball, but really all of his pitches move so much that he's going to have to really um, hone in and just work on command period with all of them because he doesn't really have a straight pitch, which is a blessing and a curse in that regard to somebody who has command problems. Joe Jimenez looked absolutely sensational, one of the bright spots of this team, and will definitely be someone that I think has earned a bigger role next season and maybe for the remainder of this season too. Then Gregory Soto pitches in this one as well. Um, Gives up a hit, but a couple of strikeouts. No walks in this one. Woo. We'll take it. And really kind of spread out the pitches in his too. He threw 13 pitches, 5 four seams, 4 sliders, 4 sinkers. Usually we're like 95% sinker and then like maybe a 4 seam or a slider mixed in there. So kind of interesting to see that too. I'm wondering if that's a theme throughout the entire bullpen to kind of change up the pitch mix as we close out the season here or what. But that's pretty much all I got for you. Just we're not going to get too high with the highs anymore. I'm not going to freak out and be like, oh my goodness, this offense finally decided to show up. Like we could win out and we wouldn't go 500. It's this offense is beyond repair for this season. That's why, again, I'm going to keep driving home. Please start the kids. Please start the rookies. You have nothing to lose, and I don't need to see a lot of these non-rookies take at bats anymore. Really, I don't. I'm pretty much out on Jamer already. Like I don't want to jump to any conclusions. And like if they do bring him back, he's had a couple of decent seasons that you can point to and be like, hey, like maybe we can get this back. But um, I would rather see Ryan Kreidler at either second or third base every night than Jonathan Scope or Jamer Candelario. One of those two can take a night off every single game for all I care and give Ryan Kreidler a starting spot there for every game the remainder of the season. Kerry Carpenter, I think, should be in left field every single day the rest of the season. Spencer Torkelson should be at first base every single day the rest of the season. It's just, and the pitching, we know Joey Wentz is in the rotation now. He's going to get some opportunities. This is what September is for. So let's just keep riding it. I think that's it. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every day. I'll make your second listen the Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and his unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories from around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts, just like us. That's it. Sorry about no episode Friday. We had one, and then like crazy technological issues, crazy like tech problems, audio problems, and everything prevented us from being able to run with it. So that's just out of my hands, unfortunately. So I apologize for that. We'll make it up to you this week. Yeah. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all tomorrow, Barry. Baby. Barry? I got Barry Sanders on the mind. Lions. What do you think, man? Look, the defense kind of looked like they had never seen an RPO before at the beginning of the game. They got a little bit better with it in the second half. But at the end of the day, this is the team you lost to by like almost 40 points last season. And this year you lost by a field goal. You had chances to get the ball back. Missed tackles, QB sneak that just, was able to take over the edge. Like, You almost had the ball back with a chance to go and win the game, just couldn't get it done. But certainly played them a lot closer. And at the end of the day, that, like I said, it's a team you lost to by 40 last year. But at the same time, Philly got better this offseason, I think, objectively. So that's a good team. I think the Eagles are going to win that division, honestly. So fought a good team hard. It's the only game we have, so I understand people's reaction or maybe overreaction to get starting off 0-1 again. But that's a darn good team in Philly. So we'll see what happens the rest of the season. But I don't know. I'm on the fence. I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm like all in either. I'm definitely drinking the Kool-Aid. Don't get it twisted. That's every first week. That's every second weekend of September for me. I'm always there, um, but yeah, just we'll see. We'll see. That's what I'll leave it at. We'll see. I'm pumped for next Sunday already. So peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. There's my Lions minute. I'll catch y'all then. Go Tigers, baby.